second to allow Allison to do that and officially welcome you all. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. My name is Bobby Mann. I'm the Chief Programs Officer for Humane Rescue Alliance in St. Hubert's Animal Welfare Center. And I'm going to toss it over to my amazing co-host and big brother, Ed Jamison, to introduce himself.
Hey, good afternoon, morning. I know we're all over the country, different times, but I am Ed Jamison. I am the CEO for Operation Kindness, a nonprofit brick and mortar life-saving agency just north of the city of Dallas. Very happy that you all could make the time to be here today, and we've got a really good lineup. And I don't know, are we ready to kick all the way off, Bob, or are we?
Oh, we're going to let it simmer in a little bit, Mr. Ed Jamison. I know a lot of people are hopping from one call to another. We want to make sure people are getting well hydrated. So we'll actually kick it off with a question of the day. So our question for all of you is simple. Share a win. We want to hear something that you've been able to implement into your shelter or organization or have achieved recently that you're just super excited about. So I know some of you have already put stuff into the chat, but if you can copy paste it back in so the new folks that jumped on this call could read it as well. We'd love to see that chat getting some excitement and enthusiasm, and then we'll also call on some of you. So Amy Charles, I know you helped kick off this call before the call started. So would you mind introducing yourself and share something you're excited about at your organization?
Say that again, Bobby. What would you like me to say?
Just something you're super excited about that's happening at your organization.
Oh, I'm super excited about most everything we're doing. We actually are building a new intake center at the shelter. It's going to make it much easier for our intake team to bring in we have 3 different locations, but at the adoption center where the puppies come in, it's going to make the whole process more streamlined and allow them to integrate the puppies into the big room where they can be adopted out much more quickly. So having that dedicated space, which is something that the board really decided whether or not they wanted to allot that money for. It's going to work much better for everyone involved, and it's been an undertaking a long time in coming. So we're super excited about it.
That's amazing, Amy. And before the call even started, Amy and Nancy Hancock were actually networking to start working together for the first time. So the idea of collaboration, folks, is working. Something that I personally love so much is the idea of rooting our work in data and evidence. And a good friend of mine, Vincent Medley, also mentioned in there that that's something he is focused on. Vincent, would you mind unmuting, introducing yourself, and telling people what you're excited about?
Yes, Vincent Medley. I am the Maddie's Human Animal Support Services Project Director, and as part of our project, we traditionally had 3 pillars, which were widespread support, research and development, and pilot implementation. And we're adding a 4th discipline to our project, which is the human service, which, you know, in animal welfare, we always, you know, we talk about social services and human services, but this discipline will be designed to look at the human services world from the lens of the human services world, social services world, rather than look at the social services world from the lens of the shelter, which is a very narrow lens, and to construct something that looks at animal welfare as a part of the human service, social service world, rather than look at us as the largest part of that. And then also with an eye on how does that help the current issues that our shelters are facing across the country. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to bring an added dimension that we haven't had in our movement before, and I look forward to sharing that all with all of you.
So amazing, Vincent. And so for the folks on this call that have not heard about the Human Animal Support Services Project, it is a movement to really focus our work on the community-centric model of animal sheltering. And it's also a project that Vincent helped support with over 25 animal shelters across the country. that are coming together to reimagine animal sheltering. So Vincent, if you don't mind putting that website in the chat, there are so many great resources, so many great affinity groups, great ways for your staff to get involved. Highly, highly recommend it. Ed, can I come over to you to call on one more person and then we'll keep this rolling?
Let's see, totally catch off guard, but my buddy Mark Neff. Mark, are you by your microphone? Are you able to pop on and just tell us what cool stuff you're working on?
Well, thank you. Yes.
There he is. There's my buddy. How you doing, Mark?
Let's see, Forsyth County, our Winston-Salem, North Carolina, we're going through a lot of changes right now. We are currently had been in a contract with the county, and the county has changed their budgeting and is no longer going to continue to contract us. So we're looking at opening our adoption facility as an open admissions, and we're doing a lot more work as far as outreach go. We have significantly increased the capacity, and we're doing about 21,000 pounds right now out of our food pantry for the community per month. And we're starting to do some more of the vaccine clinics and working in some of the areas that need some assistance with spay neuter. So.
Awesome. Thank you. And you handled that like a champ. He had no clue that I was about to call him. Leah Bacco, you're lucky because you were my backup if Mark's connection wasn't working well. So
Mark was on top of it. And just a fun tip, folks. I think, what I really love is Mark is able to quantify the impact that he's making in his community. He talked about how many pounds of pet food that he is just dispersing and the work that's being done outside of his walls, along with adoptions inside of his walls. A fun tip. If you are able to quantify the amount of pounds of food that you are distributing to your community, you can actually put a monetary value onto it. So Matt Pepper actually introduced this concept to Ed Jameson and I, where we take the total amount of pounds and you could multiply that between $2 to $3 somewhere. So if Mark was giving away 20,000 pounds of food and he multiplied that by $2, he could tell his stakeholders, his donors, that he's providing over $40,000 of pet food to his community. So when people are trying to figure out how much of an impact their dollars are making, he can literally tell you in dollars and cents. So before we get kicked off into our main presentation, which I'm so excited that Christine Kim is here, we want to be able to open up the floor for national and maybe even international updates, Kathy Duncan. So I'm going to pause and let folks unmute.
I'm going to hop right in there. Absolutely, Bobby Man. And so my colleague, Laura's Mudd from Saskatchewan SPCA has already posted in the chat. They are sponsoring it's not a webinar. It's an actual in-person conference event, Cultivating Wellness, which is a gathering for humans in animal welfare. And that is coming up at the Dakota Dunes Resort in Saskatchewan, Canada, April 28th and 29th. So if you are interested, that would be a great spot to go. And following right up on that immediately thereafter, the next week, is the Humane Canada Summit for Animals in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. So y'all could travel up here in Canada for, weeks. We'd like to see you at either one of them. Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, we'll keep it rolling.
Hi, this is Dr. Sheila Segerson. I am the Director of Community Solutions from Maddie's Fund. Just want to give a shout out to a post that Allison Gibson left about the Maddie's Fund National Foster Survey. We're hoping that we can get many orgs to respond to this survey. If you complete it, you are entered into a chance to win one of 10 $500 grants. And please fill out the survey whether or not you have a foster program. So it's not only for organizations with a foster program. And I also wanted to mention that next week on Thursday, February 23rd, the Human Animal Support Services Behavior Job Alike Group is meeting at 9 a.m. Pacific time, where we're going to hear from Mick McAuliffe, who'll be talking about incorporating behavior into everyday operations. Part 2. So I'll put a link in chat. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Segerson. And for folks that have not heard about job alikes are essentially peer groups where people who are doing a similar line of work within their organization can come together to meet other individuals across the country doing that same type of work. So everything from customer service to behavior to many other things. And I'm sure Sarah Miller will drop that link into the chat as well. Oh, look at that. Gail, really quick question from you about what would be the best multiplier. What I did in my organizations in DC and New Jersey, I actually just looked at what the market rate was around the area, and we came in with a dollar amount of around $2.25. We actually looked at what would be the cheapest or near the cheapest type of food that you can get. I think some people might use a higher number, but we wanted to be conservative in our estimates. So let's keep those national updates going.
Hey guys, it's Brandy from Cabot Animal Support Services in Cabot, Arkansas. Hey, we are teaming up with Arkansas State Animal Control Association, and they are hosting their first ever animal welfare conference in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. So that's coming up March 6th through 8th. It's open to anyone in the Animal Control, Humane Society, Animal Rescue volunteer field. So we are expecting this to be something amazing for Arkansas, and we would like to invite anyone that's interested in attending to attend. I can put the link in the chat, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let us know.
Thanks, Brandy. I'm excited to hang out with you over there.
Oh.
Look at that, already got a sign up. Anyone else? Last call. All right, Mr. Jameson, over to you.
Very good. I am very, very honored here to introduce our speaker. This is a topic that I would imagine that everybody on this call is trying to find answers for, and is building solutions to end homelessness for people and animals. Got a really good presentation here, and I'm very honored to introduce Christine Kim. She is the founder of My Dog Is My Home. So Christine, are you able to share your screen? There we go.
So can everybody, whoops, I shared the wrong thing. Sorry, everyone.
Wow, so
Very
brave to share your whole desktop. My biggest nightmare.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try this one more time. I'm sorry, bear with me, everyone.
I guess as Christine is getting her screen shut up, I also want to send a huge shout out to our friends at KC Pet Project. The Kansas City Chiefs, as many of you know, won the Super Bowl yesterday. Was it yesterday? And I know that they have a lot of amazing collaborations with their local football team. So congratulations, Tori and the team, and best of luck in getting many more animals adopted out in the coming weeks.
Okay, I think I have figured things out. Apologies, everyone, for the
No worries.
problem at the beginning here. Right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep. Awesome, take it away.
Awesome, thank you. So hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today, and I'd like to thank Maddie's Fund and the steering committee for these weekly community conversations for inviting me to present. As Ed already mentioned, my name is Christine Kim. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the founder and a board member of My Dog Is My Home. We're a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to increasing access to shelter and housing for people experiencing homelessness with companion animals. And we do this in a couple different ways. We have 3 main pillars of programming that are dedicated to storytelling, community building, and technical assistance. But no matter what we call it, My Dog Is My Home at our core, we're a community organizing organization. So we're a pretty small team of mostly volunteers, and to carry out our mission, we bring people together, we draw upon collective knowledge, and we spread information. And at the end of this presentation, I'll share with you a couple of spaces that I invite you to join to plug into our community. But first, I'd like to share with you a broad overview of homelessness and animal companionship and why we do what we do to begin with. So there are a couple different ways of enumerating homelessness, but all of them have their shortcomings, and all of them really severely undercount the number of people who experience housing insecurity on a spectrum. So a number that's referenced often is the national figure that comes from the annual point in time count, which just happened for 2023. That happens in the last 10 days of January every year. So that number isn't available yet for 2023, but we do have that 2022 figure. In 2022, the number was 582,462 people were experiencing homelessness across the US on a single night in January. So that's more than 500,000 people sleeping on the streets and in shelters on that single night in January. But again, that's a really significant undercount. There are also lots of folks who are experiencing homelessness who are doubled up in couch surfing, sleeping inside of businesses or in other places that are really difficult to reach for people conducting that point in time count. Also, homelessness is the most extreme form of housing deprivation, but we know that many people are living just on the edge of that. So there's no universal measure of housing insecurity or a universal measure for the number of people on the spectrum of housing insecurity and homelessness who go through that experience with an animal companion. I used to be fairly obsessed with trying to find that figure, like how many people exactly who are experiencing homelessness have a pet. And there's some really good work that is being done there. And I do think that that question is important. But as My Dog is My Home's work has deepened, that figure has actually become less of a central question for us at My Dog is My Home. We're just not the organization that's doing that. What is important to us is that we honor what we know intuitively as advocates, as providers, and also as people with lived experience, and that we recognize the impact homelessness and housing insecurity has on that human and on that animal level. There's also a really wonderful growing body of academic literature that describes the qualities of the bond between people experiencing homelessness and their animals, and that really debunks this myth that people of certain housing situations or income levels are undeserving of animal companionship, or that these animals are being subjected to neglect and abuse. That's just not the case. And I think that that narrative has really changed a lot since My Dog is My Home began. We started out about 10 years ago, not as a nonprofit, but just as a grassroots project. And we used to get a lot more questions around, how dare these people have companion animals when they're out on the street and they can't take care of themselves. We hear less of that now. We still hear it, but we hear less of it now. And I like to thank groups like HAAS, American Pets Alive, Maddie's Fund, for really breaking open that conversation on open arms and what it really means to be a devoted animal caregiver. That narrative is really shifting. So instead of giving you a summary of the research, I'm just going to play 2 short films for you. The first video is about Spirit and his dogs Kaya and Miniaga. And the other is about Kristen Baltram. She's the founder of a Colorado nonprofit called Annie and Millie's Place. My Dog is My Home produced these short films. And for those of you who have been with us, beside us for a long time, some of these might be familiar, but I hope that you still enjoy watching them regardless. And for those folks who are new to our work, I would like to give you a heads up about Kristen's video. It can be emotional at times, and it does reference a suicide. So if you need to take a moment or you'd like to step away, I encourage you to do so. And I'll also just let everyone know before I play Kristen's video as well, just so you have fair warning there. And please let me know if the audio is working. How's that? Can you all hear the video? Oops.
My name is Spirit. I'm presently living in an emergency shelter right now. The one thing that is important to me is the care and love of my animals, my babies. This is Miniaga. This is Kaya and Azay. They mean everything to me, and I mean everything to them. I was staying at home taking care of my father, but I was lonely. I decided to get a little bit of love by the name of Kaya. My father loved her at first, but as she became larger, he would always knock him down because she would always want to be hugged and jump on him. So they say, if you don't get the dog out, you need to get out. So that was the time where I said, okay, I'll get out. And I slept in my car that night. I realized that my love for my animals was the primary source of my joy. And I felt that it was time for a change. I just one day got in my car and just started driving. I had to find an emergency shelter, living on a cot in the corner of the room with my animals. And a lot of people were scared of them. But once they saw the eyes, everybody melted. All these hardcore ex-cons, all these other people that were homeless that were thrown away from their families, they seemed to gravitate toward my animals. A young lady by the name of Sonia, she allowed me to stay at the shelter, and she made it very clear that we were all to be treated as guests in the shelter, just like everyone else. And it meant so much to me. So I made it my best effort to make sure there'd be no problems. Of course, the dogs themselves, they're in dog heaven, and they've adjusted quite rapidly to the city mode. The way I get food for my babies, of course, there's a great organization called Paws of LA. They supply basic needs, canned food, dry food, and they also give shampoos, and they also do vaccinations and things like that. Now, trying to access services for myself was the hardest part because I had to find a place to leave my animals. Once we were able to get in the emergency shelter, then I was able to leave them there in a room that is comfortable. They have a fan, 3 fans actually, just like Beyonce, she got to have the fan all in the hair. I feel secure that they'll be okay, and I can go and do what I need to do that necessitate getting to the next level. I'm always with my animals, and I feel like something's wrong if I don't have them with me. They're just like children. They are babies. I'm located in East LA, and I love it. Coming to my studio apartment, it was a trying situation, having not only 1 service animal, but 2 service animals. So I had to do a lot of paperwork and a lot of going back and forth. But finally, with a couple of agencies' assistance, we were able to get in. The babies enjoy us a lot of parks around here. Every day they go and walk different places. They are loving it because I'm happy. Once I'm happy, they're happy, and they can just relax. With this ceiling in this apartment, this is what I've always dreamed of, a studio where I can work at and create. I look at some of the past strong individuals, African Americans particularly. I studied their lives because I want to emulate them. I believe that we can make a difference. All the greats believe that they can make a difference. And it starts with being active, being political, a deep, deep belief in change. You need love in your life. And I have unconditional love with Meniaga and Kaya. And through that, it invigorates me. It forces me to get up the next day, to see through clearly what I need to do and focus, not for myself, but for them.
All right, thank you for watching, everyone. This video is 10 years old at this point, but it still gets to me every time. You could read 100 academic articles, but Spirit still from his own voice is so articulate and shares with such conviction and such truth, like what that human animal bond means to him and why it was important for him to be able to access shelter with his dogs and what that did for his life. So again, thank you for watching Spirit's story. And as you can see from his video, his dogs are very well loved. Anyone who says his dogs are abused or neglected because he at one point didn't have a home is completely incorrect. And I'd also like to point out something really important he said again. He said that once he did make it into an emergency shelter and had a place that was safe and comfortable where he could leave his dogs, he could then go on and work on his own goals. So I am now going to play Kristen's video. And again, please feel free to step away. This video is a little over 4 minutes long. So if you'd like to, you can return in about 4 minutes. And I just want to remind folks that this is a fairly emotional video that does reference a suicide.
She was fun and dangerous in her fun because she was always willing to push the limits for things. Some of that led to some really rough time as well. I think she was also a pretty angry child, which led to some probably living out of that space of anger for a while. And then into her adulthood, she was still pretty fast paced. So she was fun to be with, but she was also, you never knew really what you were going to get on any given day with Annie. Annie was my sister, my older sister. There are 3 girls in our family, and she was the eldest. I was the middle, and then our younger sister is Katie. I am Kristen Baltram. I am the founder of Annie and Millie's Place, and we are based in Longmont, Colorado. Annie and Millie's Place seeks to keep people who are experiencing homelessness together with their fur family or scaly family, their animal companion family, by evolving programs, resources, and solutions here in our community. I know that Annie always had dogs. She was sort of this magnet for dogs. She would bring them home and try to convince my parents to let her keep the dog and all the things. So it doesn't surprise me that there would be a dog in Annie's life. But I'm not actually sure where Millie came from. I just know that Millie wasn't going to go anywhere once she was in Annie's life. We always knew that at some point she was hurting. She was hurting bad. And so between that, the housing and lack of hope for her own life, it was a struggle. It was really hard during that time that Annie was sleeping outside. We knew that she was in a park. She talked about ditches that she had been sleeping in, and it's really hard to picture my sister, who, that picture that's on our website, that we're like cuddled in these big pillows and big blankets before the best night, that she was in a ditch somewhere. My mom always asked, is she warm? Is she warm or is she cold? What does she need? And basic need of warmth and rest. So in human services, the biggest transformation would be to let these people keep their animal, because it's maybe the only relationship they have that's unconditional. That may be the only thing that's keeping them feeling like they have purpose in this world. But let them be warm. Let them have a place to sleep. It's not a ditch. Annie's death was her own choice, and her own solution to her problem. Annie and Millie's Place comes out of the fact that there was more to Annie's life than the pain and the trauma, and letting that go and turning that into something that stands for and recognizes that when we said no, when Annie's family said no, Millie was there, and Millie said yes every time. Let's go find the solutions to these things in ways that are sustainable, that make sense, that follow the rules for our world and our society that we live in, but also are about that big heart and about that dream and about recognizing that everybody gets to have a place of rest and everybody gets to have a place of warmth.
Okay, so thank you everyone for watching the story of Kristen, Annie, and Millie. As the sister of someone who is experiencing homelessness with her dog, Kristen's story demonstrates that homelessness impacts so many of us. That impact of the lack of access to human emergency shelters, affordable housing, and other kinds of social services because of a no pets allowed rule doesn't just stop at that one person. Even if you have never or will never experience housing insecurity yourself, someone you love will, or someone who is connected to someone you know will. People experiencing homelessness are you and they are me. They are pet parents. They are our family members, our friends, and our community members. And if you're in the Longmont, Colorado area, or just interested in Kristen's organization in general, I do encourage you all to check out Annie and Millie's Place. They're great friends of ours. So both storytellers hit on two very important points among many other points. But first was that their relationship with their animals meant practically everything to them. And second was that access to shelter, housing, and services is really critical. It can literally be the difference between life and death. If people won't access services because they won't separate from their animal, the answer is not to force them to sleep outside. And for those people who do make that choice to separate from their animals to access services, how terrible and traumatic is that for them, for both them and their animals? And we really have to ask ourselves why we are asking them to make that choice when we know that there is actually a better way. So I think human homeless services providers and animal welfare organizations both have a vested interest in keeping people and their animals together. And a way that we can do that as a unified front is by collaborating to make shelter, housing, and services accessible to people and their animals. We need to be working towards an end to homelessness for people and their animals. And the nice thing about homeless services and the research that's been done on solutions to end homelessness is that we actually do know how to end it. So the solution for ending homelessness is housing. It's affordable housing, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing. We can create all the pet-friendly emergency shelters we want, but unless there's somewhere for people to go after that, we have not really ended their homelessness. And also addressing homelessness and housing insecurity really on the front end avoids people having to seek out emergency shelter to begin with. So really housing is the gold standard goal here. But of course, shelter is also part of that solution. Emergency shelter, like in Spirit's case, is many times a very important stop along the way to someone's journey out of homelessness. And we need these to be lower barrier and accessible to people with a diverse range of needs, including folks with companion animals. Now, I understand that that all sounds wonderful, but it's way easier said than done. There are some wonderful examples of collaboration between animal welfare and homeless services. So just to name a few examples, Houston, Sacramento, San Diego, Los Angeles, Arlington, those are just a few of the major cities with really cool programs that have these sort of cross-agency relationships or collaboration between departments of homeless services and animal control. I know I'm leaving out a ton of places, but that short list is just meant to give us all a little hope that it's possible and that there is a collective knowledge base that's forming where people can exchange ideas, practices, and resources for keeping people and animals together in circumstances of homelessness. So to learn more about what's being done to end homelessness for people and animals through collaboration, there are two things that I would really love for people to do. And the first is to please register for My Dog is My Home's upcoming co-sheltering conference 2023. It's taking place March 21st through 23rd, 2023, and it's online, so no travel required for anyone. I promise you it's going to be really amazing. Just a few of our incredible speakers are Haben Girma. She's a disability rights lawyer, the first deafblind person to graduate from Harvard Law School, named a White House Champion of Change by President Obama, like all around really amazing. She's coming, totally supports My Dog is My Home's mission. And so she is going to be an incredible speaker. Avule from nonprofit AF, Anne Oliva, the CEO of National Alliance to End Homelessness. And of course, our real experts, people with the lived experience of homelessness and animal companionship. So whether you're a seasoned provider who's been co-sheltering or supporting co-sheltering for a long time, or if you're completely new to the idea and you just want to dip a toe into the water, this is the conference to be at. So please come, please join us. And also, of course, thank you to the amazing Maddie's Fund for underwriting the conference this year. It would not be possible without you. So I will drop a link to our registration page in the chat, and you can also see that registration link here on the slide down at the bottom. If you just go to our website, you go to the conferences menu and you click the 2023 conference page, you'll see the place to register right there on the front page. So second thing I'd like you to keep on your radar, our Q1 co-sheltering collaborative meeting is coming up on February 16th, which is this week, Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a national Zoom call where stakeholders from various backgrounds can get together and exchange practices on co-sheltering people and animals together. If you'd like to be added to the mailing list and receive the invitation, just there's an Airtable link here. You can go ahead and sign up there. We'll send you the invite. And thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time and your attention. I hope to see you all on Thursday and at the conference. And of course, if there are any questions, I am happy to take them now.
Just need a deep, deep breath to one, thank you, Christine, but two, I'd love to just do a pulse check with folks in the chat. If there's a word that describes how you're feeling after watching those videos, any thoughts that you would have, obviously share your thanks. I mean, I'll start just sharing, sort of calling in. You know, I'm really stuck with Spirit's video and just watching Spirit and his pets and just the love and dedication that he had with his pets. I grew up working the front desk of a shelter, interacting with a lot of community members, making next to no money myself, making $7, $8, $9 an hour, having to be a part of euthanizing animals. And I really conditioned myself to think it was the community's problem that these animals were coming in. And therefore, in my life, I've probably called a lot of people, just like Spirit, irresponsible pet owners. And as I sit in this moment and I think about the privilege that I have and the home that I'm living in and all of these beautiful pictures of my dog that I have hanging up that I celebrate, and I think if I had to give up everything I had to stay with my dog, would I have the courage to do what Spirit did? I can't say that I would. And so when I think about that term responsible pet ownership, which is a bullshit term in itself, but who is the more dedicated owner? Who is the more responsible owner? And, you know, I would challenge us all to think about that. So I just want to thank you again, Ed. I'm just like all up in my feelings right now. So I'm going to just toss it over to you and let you steer this thing.
Yeah, no, it's hopefully this was eye-opening. Every step of my journey on the animal control side, I can remember having to have battles with the police departments that we're not taking these people's pets just because. Hey, if there's an arrest or somebody dies or that's one thing, but and we still have such a long way to go. And again, if we can't take but anything other than we just have to be nicer in this industry. We have to be nicer and show more compassion. And I think that this talk definitely helped to bring some things to light that again we probably all throughout the course of our careers, whether intentionally or unintentionally, made some judgments that we should not have made. So what do we have on here? Do we have any questions that anybody wants to? We got about 10 minutes worth that we can do some questions. Do we have anybody want to just unmute if you have anything you want to ask Christine directly?
Looks like Lynn has their hand up. Lynn, did you have a question?
No, I had some trouble connecting. So that was probably a result of all the things I was touching. But that was very interesting. I live in a very small town. We have a small shelter here, but we do have homeless people that I'm sure are in that same situation.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Lauren, over to you.
Thanks, Bobby. Hi, Christine. Thanks so much for this amazing presentation. I'm a staff attorney for Haas, and I was really excited to hear about the various cities that you cited as having good departmental collaboration. And I was wondering if there are policies on the books in those ordinances that are facilitating that collaboration. Or is it mostly just programmatically that collaboration has occurred sort of free form?
It's both. It's both. So I would say Los Angeles is a really interesting case study when it comes to like wide-reaching municipal policy. And I would say Los Angeles County was really a pioneer in that work and having such broad reaching policy. So I would be happy to send over the documents that are available from back in, well, it's several years old at this point, but Los Angeles County had actually written into their strategy to end homelessness that their shelters should be allowing pets. And then they actually funded that. So they made a pot of money available and released a notice of funding availability. And there were a couple shelters that were awarded that money. And so all of that is in the public record, and I'd be happy to share with you what I have. But there are also, I would say that was really only possible because there were certain programs in LA also who had piloted and been pioneers on like the individual program level, showing that co-sheltering really could work. And it's not like crazy dangerous or like filled with liability that people might think that it is. And one of those programs that comes to mind most readily, and I point to them all the time, is PATH LA. So they're a really large homeless services organization in the Los Angeles area. And they really, again, another pioneer in like the co-sheltering of people and their animals together, not just service animals and emotional support animals, but just straight up like people's companion animals. And they have been very, very generous with sharing their policies, their pet policies. And I think it's sort of unusual for a program to be willing to just sort of hand out the policies that they've created, but they're super generous with that. And I could either connect you to the person or just share with you the policy that they have very readily shared with me and with others. And also anyone else who is here, who's interested in seeing that, feel free to reach out to me and I'll drop my email in the chat.
That's amazing. Thanks, Christine.
You're welcome.
Michelle had her hand up here. Go ahead, Michelle. Just unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm so moved by this because I have seen people that were homeless with their pets. We run a pet food pantry and we try to help as much as we can. But my question is that how do you get the ball running to start the collaboration with shelters and pets? Because in my city in particular, it is very non-pet friendly. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of approaching a shelter to say, okay, we can offer this support for people who want to have their pets here. How do you bridge that gap? How do you make that collaboration, that conversation to start? How do you start that conversation to make that available?
Yeah, I wish there was like a neat packaged answer that I can give you, but I think it really varies by community. And sometimes it's a matter of like everybody loves their own animals and sort of connects with that idea that that human animal bond is important and really helps people cope. And sometimes it's finding that one individual person who like gets it and can extend their own personal experience with their animals in their home to like other people and the programs and policies that they have in their community. But also I think on a larger sort of like meso macro scale, if your, municipal animal control has a pattern or like can report out data or that this is an experience that they have, that there are lots of animals coming in or that they have just, other experiences with people experiencing homelessness and animals. If you're overseen by the Department of Health or like another large umbrella agency that also oversees Department of Homeless Services, like there might be some cross-pollination, just like conversation to be had there using your agency hat and the fact that you come from a municipal animal control organization.
Thanks, Christine. The one other thing that I would mention on that as someone who is local to that area, right, is advocacy, right? You are a constituent of your community. I think oftentimes, the State of the Union address and things that are sort of national level get the most attention, but really where you can make your biggest change is in your own community. So really focusing on those relationships, have the conversations, the things that are discussed are typically the things that tend to get focused on time after time. So just make sure that you're having the conversations. Dr. Segerson, can we come to you, and then we'll come to Steph right after that.
Thank you, Bobby. Christine, thank you so much for everything that you're doing at My Dog Is My Home. Just wonderful, wonderful things. And I'd love to hear from you what inspired you to found this organization.
Thank you for asking. Well, my background is in social work, and I have my MSW. I started out my career in homeless services, and but have always been a lifelong animal lover. At one point when I was younger, I thought I would be a veterinarian, but that didn't work out. And so, like, you know, in my work in homeless services, I would just notice and pick up on these animals that were in people's lives and human animal bond issues that would come up in social work practice. And I think with My Dog Is My Home in particular, and just developing the organization and the actual framework and the language, it was really when I was working in downtown LA in the Skid Row area, which is a very unique place. If you've never been there, I think it's known for being like just the place in the United States with the highest density of homelessness. And it's a huge area. It's like 52 square blocks of downtown Los Angeles. And it's just, you know, people laid out in the street, tents, cardboard boxes, like, it's hard to walk down the sidewalk, actually. And anyway, I was working down there in a supportive housing program, which was taking people from street to home. And I had this one program participant who had a pretty small, like a miniature poodle, really. And he knew that he wouldn't be able to get into the program with his dog. So he did what a lot of people did and lied about it. Didn't tell anyone, really. Didn't lie, just didn't tell anyone, omitted some information. Snuck his dog in, and then, eventually property management found out. And he was given that ultimatum of you choose to stay here in your supportive housing apartment that you've waited for years for, after having been street homeless for years, or you can choose your dog and get out and go back to the street, not Skid Row. And I was his case manager at that time, and that was just devastating for him. It was devastating for me as the worker. And it all felt so arbitrary. Like, why can't this person keep their miniature poodle in their individual apartment? And we, at that time, were also, I think trauma-informed care was like a phrase that was being more popularized in case management and in homeless services. And we were all talking about trauma-informed care and like really meeting people where they are. And then here I was having this experience where this like harmless dog was at the crux of this horrible crisis for this person. And so anyway, that was a long story. And that was the beginning of My Dog Is My Home. I just could not like sit there and let that happen. And anyway, so with that, we started collecting stories. We started really wanting to show, one, that there was this gap in services, that there was a problem with social services. And then two, that, we were sort of getting criticism from both sides, the health and human services folks and the animal folks. The animal folks being like, well, they're homeless, they shouldn't have a dog anyway, they shouldn't have animals. So the stories that we were trying to amplify was really combating those two things, or bring light to those two things. And from there, it just sort of grew legs and developed into what it is today, where, stories are still so core to what we do. And we continue to draw upon people's lived experiences and want them to speak up and share their experiences and stories. But there's a whole sort of like evolution of the organization, and that like we want to really help organizations take the next step and transform their programs.
Thank you so much for Christine for sharing. And I could always rely on Dr. Segerson to ground us and humanize the work. So thank you for that, Sheila. Steph, in our last couple minutes, let's go over to you, and then Ed and I will close this out.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Bobby. I just wanted to share in terms of advocacy on this issue, one thing that's helped us, and I know this group loves this word, is data. We were fortunate enough about 4 years ago through a partnership with our local umbrella organization for homeless service providers, which actually runs Oahu's point in time count. We were fortunate enough to get them to add a question to our local point in time count regarding pet ownership. And we wanted to add a dozen questions, but they're very protective of the length of that form. So all we got was, do you own at least one pet? But it's really been great to add some numbers to our anecdotal evidence that pet ownership is widespread among our unsheltered homeless. So for us here on Oahu, it's ranged between 26 and 29% every year. Which has really allowed us to make the case that this is an important issue. It is a barrier to housing for these folks, and we need to be sensitive to it. So I would encourage other groups to work with their local homeless service providers to try and get that data as well, but it's been very useful for us.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Congratulations. And once you have all that census information, we'd love to have you come back and share a little bit about that. In closing, Christine, I think the one word that I really want to leave you and the rest of this group with is intentionality. You know, I think you found your passion and you're driving about a specific part of this work, and you have really put so much time, love, energy, and attention into this specific part of our mission. Folks, there is so much work to be done in the field of human and animal well-being. And I personally consider Christine Kim a subject expert in the unhoused community. So I cannot tell you enough to please attend this conference. It is one of the highlights of my year when I've been able to not only go to the quarterly meetings, but attend the conferences. They are just brilliant, and you will hear speakers there that you will not hear at any other animal welfare conference. So Mr. Jameson, I'm going to toss it over to you to close us out. Thanks again to Maddie's, and I hope everybody has a great day. So over to you, Ed.
Yeah, no, this is easy. Christine, thank you so much. This was so informative, and hopefully gets everybody kind of refocused, and let's keep things in the right chute and keep things into perspective. And again, let's just be good to people. Maddie's, thank you so much for making this forum for us. It's one of my favorite parts of the week is knowing that we've got this call and be able to get together. Bobby, thanks for being the host with the most. Everybody have a terrific week. And wait, we are off next week. Are we off, or we
Next week it's a holiday, so
next
everyone
week we are off, and
rest up.
We'll see you a week from then. All right, everybody, take care.
Peace.
Thank you so much.